So what are we doing? What am I talking about? I'm talking about digital loneliness. So I'm going to flick between two different scenes for the duration of this, just to give people a chance to read the little doodah down here, here, down here. Um, so there you go. Now you can read my tings. You can read it. You can consume it. You can know what I'm talking about. Digital loneliness. What is it all about? I'm not going to read it though. I'm going to assume you can read. Um, and if not, I mean, you can write, right? And I'm pretty sure if you can write, you can read. That's normally what go on. So, I can't control this. Like, there is a front page one, which is this. I don't know. It starts with the definition of loneliness. Can't actually control. I don't know. I could just put it on my screen, I guess, and then I could control it. Whatever. So the basic premise here is people feel lonely. Now that's a normal thing. That happens anyway, right? Like, even without, like, before technology permeated the whole of society, people felt lonely. But it's kind of worse now. So, like, as I sort of alluded to in the slides, we've got two different flavours of this happening. We've got an entire generation of people, well, two generations really, that when they were born, there was no technology. So, like, I sort of fall into that. I'm one of the proper. I think we're Gen Yers or something. We're like, yeah, totally. So my generation and all generations before us grew up in a world where the best example I can give is, like, if you wanted to meet someone, you had to actually say to them ahead of time through some sort of synchronous communication method, so like either a letter or a direct phone call that they had to be in to receive. I'll meet you at this place at this time. And then if you got there and they weren't there, you just had to work out either I'll stay for an X amount of time or I'll leave. And that was it. So, like, social relationships were far more rigid in their need to set expectations. Not always effective, yeah. You had to set expectations, meet your commitments. You had to be face to face, or you didn't interact. Like, I was born in the 80s, so then we started to have, like, obviously phone lines were about quite a few years before then, but even then they were quite expensive. So really, we've gone through this shift, and the technology has moved forwards far, far, far quicker than either our society or our sort of biological evolution. So we're just massively behind the curve as a species in terms of what we're capable of, right? So, like, in this context, it's a problem. So digital loneliness takes two flavours, which I've sort of alluded to in the slides. There, I'm going to flip back to mostly me now, and then as and when we get more people, we can go from there. But not always effective to just show up at people's crib. That's right. So we've got these two flavours. We've got all these older generations that don't really get social media and digital interaction. It doesn't pass to their brain. They don't understand how to build relationships through it. They don't understand, like yeah, loads, like really any of it. They just don't get it. They do not understand what it's all about. Then we've also got a younger generation that just don't know any different. So we've got this complete divide, and it's really hard to communicate across the bridge. My generation, we kind of can do it because we can relate to what the older people expect from social interactions and from how to maintain social relationships, and then we can also understand where younger people might be a bit like, that's pointless. What does it matter if I'm 10 minutes late to meet you? Like, just grow up, or just text you if I'm late. Like, so there's these two different flavors of digital loneliness. We've got a whole bunch of young people that are making friendships that are engaging in relationships online, and there's a level of shallowness to an online relationship. There's a level of impersonability that our technology as it stands right now is not bridged. So there's the first bit, yeah, there's the body language, there's the eye contact, there's the all of the subliminal cues that happen in a face-to-face relationship that you just can't really feasibly emulate. Like even with modern video software where you can do like video over IP calls and stuff, yeah, you can sort of get there, but it's even the subtle things, right? Like if I look at the screen to look at you, I'm now not looking at you at your end because I need to look down the lens to look into your eyes. And it's like just subtle things like that that just break the flow of conversation and the transfer rate of information between two people, the ability for the conversation to grow to like an organic conversation, just it's just hindered hugely. So there's a whole young generation that are not. There's no real way for them to know that that's wrong. The way that I bet it is, yeah. Just even in the simple element of only one person can speak at once, right? So like, yeah, the lecturer's talking. How do you interject them? How do you ask a question in a way that's respectful to the rest of the audience? So we've got that first element of it, yeah. We've then got the extra side of it, which is this whole older generation who, again, as I've alluded to in the slides down here, but I can switch if people want to read them. They don't get it at all. They don't get it at all. Like, so my dad's in his 80s, right? So I'm in my 30s. My dad was in his 50s when I was born. So he was born in World War II. He's a legit boomer, like, big time. And he's like actually quite bright, and he's a bit of an early adopter, and even he just doesn't get it. So like I identified this happening probably when I was in my late teens, where I'd go to visit him and he was in his 70s, and I'd have my phone and I'd have my PlayStation, and I'd bring the PlayStation round, and I would sit there and game on his TV for 3-4 hours straight and then leave. We hadn't spoken, we hadn't bonded, we hadn't done anything together. So I stopped doing that as I got a bit older. But then even then, I'd realised that like we'd sit there and within half an hour, my phone's out and I'm Googling stuff and I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter. And he's talking to me and I'm sort of half responding to him and engaging him enough to keep the conversation going. But we're not increasing the level of our relationship. We're not, oh, hey Breaker, thanks so much for coming along. Oh, you're a sub, you're a founder. This is great news. So, shortly, in 20 minutes, I'll be running an ad deliberately, and I'm curious to see if subs also see that ad because. Thanks so much for coming along, Jones. And more founders arrive. We're deep diving on digital loneliness. I mean, no, you're not my boss. This is a collaboration, and I don't appreciate those terms, but anyway. So, where was I? So yeah, there's this whole older generation that they have completely different expectations of what a relationship will be like face to face. Technology, there's nothing that I can see in the pipeline right now that aims to bridge this gap, right? So like the closest we come is VR chat. But even that, VR chat, what is it? It's 3D drawn environments with 3D avatars loosely tied to someone's motions interacting with each other. And we're sort of... big time. Yeah, it's really hard to find... I mean, is that true? Yeah, I think you're right in general, as you rightly said, people in general. Like, I think there'll always be people on the fringes that like there were always people that just had dreadful attention spans and S89 Jones relaxing in nature, but yeah, twitching, watching this Twitch conversation. It's a good example, right? So yeah, of course, there were always laggards and people ahead of the curve, and today as well we do have young people that are digitally savvy that are also capable of social interaction. Um, the interesting thing is, we're at a point where we're a global society now, right? And as part of being a global society, we interact with so many different cultures that are all at different places in their technological journey and in their social like advancement. So maybe this is naive of me to say, but I feel like as a Gen Yer, I'm quite well prepared to traverse these different levels of social understanding. So like I feel like I could go to somewhere in Africa that's English speaking and gauge like they're probably most people will probably be in a similar situation to what I was when I was younger, where like you've got some basic communication ability with mobile phones and stuff, but you don't have like 4K streaming and and stuff like that. Um, yeah, choice is a big challenge as well. So drawing it back in particular to this concept of digital loneliness, it is just this idea that overall people are more lonely now, and technology offers both. It is both a blessing and a curse, right? Technology allows us to do this, right? Like I can spread these ideas and have this conversation with people all around the world. Um, the old 3310 that was actually a lethal weapon. So this is good. It's good that we can communicate like this. What's bad is we miss out on all of the stuff that we've evolved to do. Absolutely, yeah, we can live in our bubbles. And like that's good. It is good, like net good, because it means it'll be way cheaper for us to like geo-engineer the planet so that the atmosphere doesn't kill us. But it's bad because on an evolutionary level, we are like biologically driven to seek out face-to-face interaction. There's like so much research into this around how just based on seeing someone's body language, we change our body language. And that seems like nothing, but that's actually rewriting your brain. Do you know what I mean? The makeup of your brain changes by meeting other people. Likewise, there's a hormonal transfer, which I doubt will ever really bridge in the next decade through technology, of like, as we respond to stuff emotionally and internally, we release hormones that the olfactory nerve, the nose of the other person picks up on, and that changes their neurochemistry and the way that they react. A good example is if you get angry. I mean, it's language, it's body language, and then there is this subliminal hormonal transfer that we don't even really consider. Like it's one of a lot of the reasons why um, phone conversation, like so, say in customer service, stuff can escalate quickly. So if someone can go from um, there's partly the body language element, but there's also partly this lack of feedback hormonally. So like if you get angry, you will internally you will have like a bit of an adrenaline hit and your hormones will start to drive up so that you're ready to fight. Basically your fight or flight instinct starts to come in, and my body will pick up on that, not just from visual cues. Like blind people can still detect this stuff, and there's a reason, because they can still pick it up. I don't see technology bridging that gap for the next decade, but definitely the body language element. And then lastly, there's another critical part of how humans interact, which is the physical environment you're in. Your physical environment quite strongly dictates, well, not quite strongly, but it has an influence in the conversation, in your moods, in your attention spans, right? Like there's this big difference between having a conversation at a construction site with like drills going off and those, what are they called? I don't know, you know, the things, them things going off. Smell-o-vision, yeah, smell-o-vision for hormones, maybe. Compared to if you're in like a perfectly controlled front room where there's like, you know, nice lighting and it smells sweet and you've just eaten and stuff. So pneumatic drill, that's it. You got me. You got me. So I think there is room for technology to help with this, and basically that's my goal in life, is to try and do it, is to build it, to make it happen. So to that end, I want to try and build the conversation about digital loneliness. It's the sort of thing that when people talk about it, they only think of old people sat alone, not seeing anyone. And especially in this pandemic situation where no one can actually visit anyone, there's like certainly if you Google digital loneliness, all that it talks about is old people. And I don't think that we are truly focusing on the impact social media is having on relationships. Like, wow, really? You got another one in already, dude? Um, so yeah, what do people think? At least I did it. Do you know what I mean? I've got to commit. I'm going to think of some others to add to there as well. I'm not sure what, but like you said, we can do some gimmicks. I'm wondering if maybe like different types of masks at the moment. That's quite on trend, isn't it? I don't know. Different types of music that could be cool. But then I don't know. That's just a free feature. You can just click a button, I think. Anywho, so yeah, digital loneliness. Are there any other elements to it that you lot can think of that really? Oh, whenabouts was that? Yeah. As I say, I think that there's a challenge in how rooted are. Okay, I'll have to check that out and give it a listen. That sounds really interesting. I think there's definitely a correlation between our perception of our physical environment and our ability to move forwards emotionally, right? So like, it's hard to be. It's hard when you're actually just sat in the same room every day. Like me, I'm lucky I've got it downstairs, so I now get the environmental switch of being able to like get up in the morning, go downstairs to do my breakfast and get set for the day, and then come back up to the office, and then like context switch to streaming by going downstairs, coming back up to stream and stuff. But even then, it's the same four walls, right? So I've got VR, and I've got to say, VR helps you feel like you've been somewhere else, definitely, because your brain is perceiving a different environment. So for me, like part of the, there you go, yeah, totally. So it's for me part of this stream is to really push forward the idea of the business that I'm trying to form, which is called With You, which is a platform to create presence over IP. So the basic premise is you have a device that you plug into your light switch that scans your room in real time and will enable you to, like a video call or like this, where I'm streaming a data stream to your eyeballs and you're receiving it, and you kind of feel like we're in a conversation. Well, to actually step into my room in augmented reality or VR, so where like you could actually see my desk and you could like sit and it would be like you're physically sat next to me and you could see me typing and you could see me pick up my Dr. Pepper and drink it. And I could turn to where you are and have a conversation and it would be like I'm looking straight at you. Now, obviously, I wouldn't see you, and that can be like the next stage of this. But at first, I feel like there's so many use cases for a technology like this. Like, just in terms of, I look at it from a just from a professional perspective, like being able to remote into your office. Well, I mean, so the business is actually at a stage where, like, I have a co-founder who is a doctor in electrical engineering who has completely validated the idea from a hardware perspective. Um, so, like, I know this is possible, and critically, there's no invention here. Everything I just described is achievable with technology that exists right now. Likewise, yeah, as Jones points out in the chat, like there's just so many benefits to this technology, right? I mean, I can just start listing them, and it's just ridiculous. The amount of areas of society that would benefit from being able to teleport into another environment in real time are insane. Social care, firemen en route to like a flat that's been on fire, like if all the communal areas had this, they could actually rewind time. You could actually go back in time. It's yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I see the horrific element of it, definitely. What if it gets hacked? So it's interesting to explore the two concepts that drew me to this idea, because I think it helps sort of empathise with where it comes from. Obviously, all technology, every bit of technology we've ever made, has the ability to be exploited, yeah, and can be horrifying. Like, name one bit of technology that's changed society that can't be used for bad reasons. So I don't think that, whilst you're right, we need to be aware of the potential drawbacks and damage technology like this could cause. Um, I don't think that's a reason to not do it. But that's fine. You don't know they're there. What can they do? To be honest with you, I imagine there's a lot of people that would earn a lot of money from doing that. I mean, imagine the porn industry, right? Like, can you even imagine? But and yeah, as Breaker points out, in 1984, like there is this the yeah, it would be the most powerful surveillance tool ever invented, without a doubt, because we're talking about real time 3D surveillance inside people's homes. All that side of it, you know, the first step is to just get this physically built and demonstrable. So like part of this, like the idea of me starting this streaming, and I've got a Patreon out there as well, which enables people to sort of help me move away from full-time work to dedicate my time to this idea, so I can start fleshing out all this stuff and get the prototype built. And then eventually, morning heart, morning. Oh yes, I've timed this quite well. East Coast of America is just getting going. Things are good. Things are good, heart. Thanks. We're just doing a bit of a just chatting about digital loneliness. I'm just going to do a quick rotate, just so that people can consume into their brains the things. Also, in 7 minutes, I'll be rolling a 90-minute ad, just so that any newcomers can come along and not get a pre-roll ad and get straight into the conversation. Pardon me. So yeah, things are good for me. We're just, as I say, we're just exploring this idea of digital loneliness, and you'll probably be aware I've mentioned a few times over the course of my streaming about the concept of with you. Um, yeah, so I'm really excited to pursue it, and part of the Patreon, actually, the tier 3 Patreon, which isn't cheap, but it's like the level at which I could see with a few people doing that, I could start dropping work to start to move towards full-time dedication on this business idea. And that's the fundamental objective of this, is to try and get to the point where I can supplement my income to drop to half hours professionally, so I can then spend evenings streaming and daytimes on this business idea, so we can actually start moving it forward. I just can't cope with being a full-time worker, a single dad, and a part-time streamer. Like, I'm doing like 60-hour weeks plus parenting, and there's no way I've got room there to also be the co-founder in a multi-million-pound startup. It's just, there's only so much I can do, right? So tier 3 of the Patreon, it's not cheap, 50 quid a month, but after 6 months of doing that, that comes with options in with you. So, like, as I state in the Patreon page, I want you to be like that guy that worked for Google that did the art and then cashed in the shares years later for millions. Like, for me, anyone that helps me on this journey, I want to sort out. And I just don't like, I've got two routes, right? I've already been to venture capitalist VCs, and like when I contacted them in January, I pitched the idea, and the guy basically said, love it, love you, love your passion, love the problem it's trying to solve, need some confidence that this is actually possible. Get me a co-founder that's got the credentials to give me confidence. So I've got a strong software background. I'm confident that I could engineer the back end platform that we need to do this, but the actual physical device I've got no experience in. So I went on the pursuit and managed to find a doctor of electrical engineering at University of Edinburgh who has joined me and is now the co-founder of this idea. He's looked into it all, he's put together all of the blueprints, the design documents. We're basically ready to go. But what I would prefer to do is effectively crowdsource the funding for this, so that it's owned by me and him and us, rather than go to some VC firm that's purely profit focused and wants to use us as a way to what they call return the fund. I'm not going to go too deep into the minutiae of what those terms are, but I just say, like, you know, a VC is going to be pushing for profit. So they're going to want me to sell out to like Valve or Facebook and just sell the patents, sell the IP, and cash out for them. And for me, I feel like that's appealing. Like, it is appealing to be able to just cash out and and never work, basically, or just stream for a laugh. But really, what I'd much rather do is grow this and protect it. And some of the things that have come up in the chat, do everything I can to avoid it, right? So avoid growing at the rate, growing in pursuit of money rather than ensuring all the bases are covered from a security perspective, from an exploitation perspective. Um, Likewise, yeah. So I feel like technology like this would go a long way to mitigating digital loneliness. So there was two use cases that drew me to this idea, the actual invention of the device. Um, Elon Musk, wait, that's it, man. Yeah, he is my little role model. I do love him to bits. So there's the one use case, which is I split up with the mother of my daughter last July, and I was living in like a shared house with random people. It wasn't a healthy environment for me to bring a toddler to, so I was spending very little time with my child, and I felt like it just sucked. There's so many nights where I just lay in bed hoping she's okay, not knowing if she's okay, not knowing if she's comfortable in bed, if she, like, as a parent, it's just such a visceral drive to know that your child's safe, and to not be able to find that out is literally fucking torture. Sorry to swear, can't overstate it enough. It is torturous. It makes life horrible. So my idea was just, I've got a VR headset there. I've got it all set up. I've got the ability to step on any street that's been mapped by Google Maps in real time, true scale, but I can't just digitally enter my daughter's room and just see if she's safe, if she's happy. So that was the first thread. The second thread was trying to engage my toddler child with my 80-year-old dad over a phone call. Which is literally impossible. Like, it just doesn't work. Toddlers these days, they're like TV, bang, bang, bang. Everything's high spec pace. Like, they just want it all instant. Nah. They don't want to talk with just words. What's this? My old man is like hardcore boomer. Like, he just wants to have a slow, deep conversation. So they've just got no bonds. They live 500 miles away. They don't know each other. Whereas if I could have a device in my living room that's transmitting in real time, you know, it would be like a phone call, so they would ask to have access, and then I would give them permission and stuff, and then they would join. But if I could just send my dad a Vive Quest or a VR headset that's got like it's the Oculus Quest, isn't it? You know, the idea is completely self-contained. He doesn't need to set up a PC and buy an internet connection and all this. He just plugs a SIM card into it, phones me through the UI. I say, yep, no worries, come in. And it's like he's sat on our sofa and he can see me playing with the daughter. He can hear us. He can speak to us and it comes out of our smart speaker. For our perspective, it's not much different. From his perspective, that is night and day. Do you know what I mean? To be able to actually sit with your loved ones when you are an isolated elderly person who, you know, if I had him come round, all that would happen is, you know, he'd end up sitting in the front room not doing much because he's in his 80s, just watching anyway. So at least this way he's in the comfort of his own home. He doesn't have to travel 500 miles. And yeah, in general, I feel like that's the two use cases that pushed me to pursue this sort of business idea. So on them bombshells, our pre-roll time's just faded, so I'm going to go ahead and run another 90-second ad, which will give us 30 minutes of no pre-rolls, so when other people join, they won't be met with an advert, they'll just be able to get straight into the conversation. Likewise, I'm going to flip over to mostly me. I left the slides on, didn't I? Hey-o! So I'm going to hit the button, and I'm curious, subs, so Breaker, Jones, anyone else that's here, when I click this button, let me know if you see ads or if you still see me. I don't know if there's like a delay. Oh, see. That's like, ah, that. I see you. Um. So, right, I know ads are running now, and you can still see me, right? Cool. Okay, so subs don't see ads. That's cool. That's sweet. Okay. So I think it's worth taking the 90-second hit now, and know anyone that comes along in these 90 seconds will be in back-to-back ads. But then for the next half an hour, if anyone stumbles across this chat, as I say, they won't be met with an ad, because I feel like that can be. I definitely see a lot of people, they join, and within the time one ad takes to run, they do one. So. Oh man, I can't believe this. I'm actually advertising to you. No, I'm not advertising to you. I'm advertising to random people that aren't even here. That's beautiful. What's this? There you go. So, oh no, there's one more ad playing. I think. So what would you think? Would you buy it? If you had the choice. You only got two. Oh, sweet. Sweet, that's good. And now no one gets ads for half an hour. It's a cool system, I think. Like, it's pretty decent. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm a little bit. You'd get it. Breaker's in. He'd buy it. So the company with you, the device is going to be called the With Them. Because the idea is like I would buy it as a VR. I own VR, right? So I would buy it for my loved ones, so I could step into their environment. So it would be like I'm buying it for them. So for the person with the device, it's effectively a phone call at the moment. So in the first like iteration of building it, it would just be that. It will be the understanding that it's the ability for someone to insert themselves into your environment and for you to hear them. In the future, it would probably be a case that we'd actually look to do like you would install. So it is basically a light switch, not a light switch, a light bulb, a really flashy light bulb that has all these different emitters and receivers built into it, so that it can in real time act as a normal light, so it lights your room like normal, but it's simultaneously, like, I won't go into the technical detail of how it works, but it's effectively scanning the whole room, streaming that to a server, and then the person at the other end is just taking that data stream and using the positional data to build a 3D environment in a graphics engine, and then the visual data to create the textures. Very, very like the Xbox camera. Yeah, very similar, but 360 all the way around. So yeah, at the moment the person with the device just has a phone call. Now I think what would be like, that would be like the MVP. That would be what I would look to sell to the existing consumer market that own VR headsets. We have to remember that. Nah, it's all good, man. I've checked all the IP and stuff. I'm clean. I'm good. We're all good. I'm safe. So the consumer VR market's not big, and really the true way that this technology reduces digital loneliness is by people having access to VR. Because like you could totally access it through AR. Like there's no reason why you can't just hold your phone up and it would be like you're stood in the room, but you just don't get the environmental benefit. It doesn't feel like you're actually in that room. Whereas with VR, pardon me, you really do feel like you've transported to a different environment. And for me, that's the key, like, innovation and the way that this addresses the problem it's trying to tackle, which is that digital loneliness idea. So MVP is going to be, you're going to have a device plugged in. It's going to be like a flashy light bulb. It's going to be connected to your Wi-Fi, and it'll be like you're having phone calls. But for the person with VR, it's like they're sat in your room. For the second stage, I'm imagining a setup process where you plug it in, and it scans you. It basically does 3D photogrammatic scan. So you then have a with you avatar, which is your face and you. Now, what I'm imagining is based on like the timeline that we're looking at of feasibly getting this built and out into the market, and like the platform, but like all the engineering work that needs to take place to make this a thing. We'll see miniaturization of VR technology happening at the same time. So what I'm hoping for is we get to a point where we basically have VR glasses, like mixed reality effectively. So then we could be at a point where both parties have this device providing the environmental and real time tracking and texture data. Both parties have glasses on, and then you can effectively like choose to overlay their environment on yours. Like not just yeah. I mean, AR's augmented reality, where you're adding stuff from the digital world onto the real world. Mixed reality is really where like this concept of mixed, you're taking the real world and you're making it digital so other people can explore it and interact with it, and vice versa. So like what I'm envisioning now is, say we both had the device and we had this magical VR glasses, which like there are businesses working on this technology already. um, I could almost choose to put 60% my environment, 40% your environment. So I could be sat here, I could still see my desk, I could still type, but I could look to the side and see you sat on your sofa. And where you're sat, you could sit and you could position yourself in my 3D environment to be sat like here next to me, looking at my screens, watching me type. Because obviously, this is the weird thing about it. Like, my entire 3D environment's mapped and streamed to you in real time. Where you choose to put your camera, whether it's just your eyes are your camera and you walk around, or you choose to just put a stationary camera that you're then looking through, like in Google Street View, um, you can do that. So you could say like you want to be the webcam, but it would actually be like you could see how far away. You could actually look down and see my desk, and you could look behind my monitors, and you could walk up to the window and look out the window. Like it's gonna be so sick. I just can't wait to build this. Um, and this is the one thing that the industry's not focused on, right? Like the entire virtual and mixed reality industry is focused on creating more immersive experiences. And whenever they say that, what they mean is higher resolution headsets, higher resolution, like more powerful graphics cards, so they can load in 3D environments that have been drawn to 4K, 8K resolution. Um, well, then them people heart are going to be asking themselves some questions, aren't they? Yeah. No, so the key thing is it is still like a phone call, right? So it's not like once you install it, anyone can just walk into your room. Um, Firstly, I imagine there would be a feature like this where I can tell it to fuck off without even turning it on or off. Um, Equally, there would be like it would be like a phone call. So the platform is separate. Well, so this is the thing. There is this. I've not made a decision on this element yet, and I feel like part of the community I want to build would help me get objective views on this. Like, part of me thinks doing a one-time mapping is valuable because it's way cheaper computationally to just transmit what's changed rather than the whole room all the time. Um, the problem is you do lose out on some of the real timeness. Like, say, like imagine when you go to an office, you go to work at the office, and you walk in tomorrow. Like you go there every day, 5 days a week. You're used to what it's like, and you walk in tomorrow and someone paints a wall. You notice that, right? Why? Because it's an environment you're used to going to, and then when you come back, it's changed and something draws your eye. By letting people, I think it's inevitable that people would be able to augment their environment. Um, I see. I see. Yeah, but I think it's inevitable, like I say, that Yeah, that's where I think the real time element of it, and I think it's just the subtle things, like from the professional setting. Yeah, like say in this pandemic situation, if my office had one of these devices in every room, we could still actually do meetings in our meeting rooms, and we could have like you. There's no reason why we wouldn't be able to say that's a whiteboard, and that means that when I walk up to it and I digitally write, everyone else sees me writing on that whiteboard. And the beauty of it is then it's digitized, so we can all take an image of that and store it locally, or we can revisit the room and redo the meeting. Like it would be like real time 3D holographic meeting recordings, where in its first MVP you would just see basic avatars of people sat around the desk. But like I could say, right, I'm sat at my desk and I've got a with them device, and there's a with them device in the office, and I wish to stream this area around me. So then, when I'm in the merged environment with the other people in the meeting, they'll see my keyboard on my desk. They'll see the stuff I've got on my desk. When I take a sip of my drink, they'll see me pick it up and drink it. To me, that it's hard to imagine, but being sat with a VR headset on and looking around and seeing all your colleagues in the meeting, seeing their hand gestures from the like eyes down, it would just be them being scanned. They would see Pornhub on your monitor if you choose to. But this is the thing: there would definitely need to be like in the second iteration, there needs to be a whole bunch of tools for the person transmitting their environment to be able to say there's areas that can't be transmitted, that there's areas that they want to scan once and then not track. Like all that stuff will come in time. I think that the real key at the moment is just to focus on getting the device and the platform built to the point where in this use case for Twitch streaming, like that's one of my primary goals, is just to enable Twitch content creators to be able to have like a tier 3 sub perk where you can with your streamer, and that's like in the way that Google became the adverb for searching for information on the internet. I would like with to become the adverb for being digitally present with someone else. So like I'll with you later, or how about you with me at 6, or I'm gonna with my favorite streamer while they're streaming tonight because I'm a tier 3 sub and they give me access to that. So whenever they're streaming, their with them device is open and I can just transplant myself into their environment. Um, it's fucking local, man. We're gonna build it. And then yeah, so to that, speaking to that point breaker, like yeah, you would definitely need to have creative control over what is actually allowed to be transmitted in real time. And I don't know, I've not decided or come to any conclusions on the engineering approach to these problems. Like there's many ways that I can immediately think of to tackle that. Um, but we don't have to overcome that problem yet. It's not a real problem yet, right? Like the device doesn't even exist. You can't even do real time VR environment like presence. So we just need to get that to be a thing first. Um, but the second thread to this idea, which is my long term, the actual blue sky moonshot element of this idea, is looking at Elon Musk's Neuralink company. So like what I'd like to see is the With You platform becomes the de facto platform for human telepathy. But don't worry about that. just just let's make this happen, and then maybe in 5 years' time we can talk about real time human telepathy. Um, you hear it, by the way? I always often wonder about the sound balance. I'm turning that one up. Yeah, it's a legit challenge. I think I'm not massively concerned. Like the low adoption rates of VR, they've been low when scaled against. Like it's all relative, yeah. So VR is still an early adopter targeted. Oh, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to totally just do this And look, now I'm nicely framed in my like ivory tower. Um, so yeah, low adoption rates of VR is loaded, right? It's saying based on the amount of people that own consoles and PCs and buy video games, the amount of people that bought VR is low. But what it's still a multi-billion-pound industry. There's still a lot of money to be made there. It's just that it's people that sit in the early adopter part of the innovation curve that are buying VR still. So like I'm an early adopter. I bought a Vive like for £1,000. Upgraded my whole computer so I could do it. Very few people do that. Um, what is good is that they priced it so expensive that they have generated enough profit to justify further investment in research to bring the prices down, right? So like you can pick up a Vive now for 400 quid, the full set, from HTC. Like I think it's £499 for the full set from HTC. So it's come down 50% in 2 years. That's it, yeah, exactly. How Elon runs Tesla and all of his businesses is taking that first principles approach and then looking to maximize your constraints using the theory of constraints, which is exactly the objective of this platform. So, one of the big reasons that VR has low adoption is twofold. It's still priced at the early adopter market, and the actual real world use for it is very minimal, right? Like, it is useful for gaming, basically, it. Like, so unless you're a gamer, you aren't going to be interested in VR. There's no real business implications for it. Like some architects are using it now, so they can 3D model a building and then the person can walk around it. I think some military are using it for training. So like they'll use the full wireless VR with a computer on their backpack, and a pretend gun, and then they'll do like training indoors, and it's a lot safer than going out into the fields and stuff. Um, Other than that, there's very few professional like applications for VR. So we're going to see already with things like what's it called? True Motion. Wait for it. No, bear with me 1 second. There's a company that was in startup for quite a long time. It's in there, but it's not coming to the forefront of my mind. Anyway, they sell like goggles that look like what's his name? Chris Pratt's character, Starkiller's goggles, and it's got a little computer that goes on your thing. It's about £2,000 for this set, but that actually does real time mixed reality. So you can like the best example is you can like have a digital screen, a virtual screen that's above your computer screen that's just always there in mixed reality. And whenever you put your goggles on, it's there. And when you take them off, it obviously you can't see it because it's not real. Companies like that are helping to drive the miniaturization and cost down of VR. So what I envision we'll see is the one real gap is this idea of bringing real world environments into the virtual world and making them accessible. Like no one's really tackling that. There's a few people considering how they might approach it, but even then it involves hiring a graphic artist to design the environment in 3D. Like there's no the idea of real-time 3D scanning, just for some reason people just think it's a world away, like it's impossible, and it's really 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 not. Like if I can stream a 4K webcam and if I can stream a 4K 360 webcam, which you can do right now, then adding some geospatial data to that and then overlaying the textures based on that spatial data is not a trivial computational task, but it is well within the realm of what we can achieve computationally now in real time. So, like, yeah, it's happening. But you're right. So the idea here, the reason that low adoption rates of VR isn't a problem for with you is the device is going to be costing probably £300 to £400, the with them device. That's going to be like the MVP device, the original first like iteration. So the actual platform itself will be free. You'll be like a grandfathered legacy user, like an alpha tester effectively. So you'll never need to pay to with people, or people won't have to pay to with you. but you'll be paying a premium. The camera device, yeah, we won't be selling headsets at all. So the business is just creating the With Them device, which plugs into an existing light socket and provides three-dimensional real-time um, tracking, effectively, of your environment and the textures. And WithView also creates the platform that supports the new standard that WithView will own and license to other companies called POIP, Presence over IP. So this standard will define the data structures that will be transmitted, how to encrypt them, how to compress them, how to obviously do the opposite, uncompress and decrypt them, and then also the standard of, how to actually render it into a 3D environment and overlay the textures. The idea behind that is I'm interested in introducing competition into the device market. So likewise, that's a really expensive area to... Nah, basically, nah, Breaker, nah, you don't. Like, technically you do, but we can go, if you want technical details, we can drill down into that stuff. But I'll just go to Hart's question first. So yeah, from the WithView business's perspective, the output device that you choose to render the With Presence call through is just an output device, whether that's a phone using augmented reality, whether it's a headset that's generating a 3D environment around you, whatever it is, all we're doing is sending a data stream out from our server and mandating how it gets rendered in a 3D games engine. If you choose to use whatever interface to view that, you can do whatever you want. That's not we're not going to mandate that. So we want to, the real money is in the standard, the presence over IP standard, because that's the thing that like is infinitely scalable. Because as you introduce competition into the device market, so you'll have wealthy companies like Microsoft, Intel, Nvidia, Samsung that will, the second that this standard exists, I guarantee you they will dive in and start building their own transmitters that work in their own technological ecosystems. So the key there is, from a revenue stream perspective, to license the standard to them, so that they have interoperability across all the different ecosystems. So they're not like, what you don't want is, Streamer X wants to add this capability to their subs, but they've bought a Samsung device, so you can only access their presence if you have the correct subscription with Sam or whatever. Like, the whole purpose of the POIP standard is to A, be like an infinitely scalable revenue stream for WithView, and B, to ensure interoperability across different ecosystems. The With Them device is just a necessary evil to get this standard actually in the wild, and to actually make the concept of being physically present across the internet in someone else's environment something that's real and that you can actually do. In the same way, like Tesla have pushed forwards on a first principles basis in so many areas of the electric vehicle sort of world, that they're completely ahead of the market. So that's what I envision putting WithView in the position of, similar position to Tesla in the digital presence field. So yeah. So in terms of answering that question, would you not need a scanner in each corner of the room? So to get like proper accurate, like sub-centimeter accuracy scans of everywhere all the time, yes, you would need scanners in all corners to be able to actually accurately scan everywhere. Excuse me. But you don't need that. You don't need that, right? Like, that's completely surplus to requirement. What you do need about centimeter accuracy, maybe sub-centimeter on some stuff. Fuck. I don't know if you can hear it. I can hear it, and it's banging. Um, where's my volume mixer? Just a little tweak. So there's two threads to it. The first thread is the idea we discussed previously about basically having a setup process where someone scans in their body and that becomes their avatar in the With You platform. So that immediately sort of removes quite a bit of the need. Obviously, if you want to be tracking facial movements, it's a valid challenge. I mean, when you speak, there is only one way to make the sounds you're making, right? So we can capture that computationally and then change the face that's displayed in the digital world based on what you're saying, so that your mouth moves in the way it would need to move to make them sounds. So that would be driven by like machine learning, effectively. The eye movements is going to be completely down to whether or not the headset device that you're using tracks your eye movements, because obviously at the moment headsets do have that capability, but it's down to whether it's available data or not. So like, I think for the first tier, the deliverables for With You are the physical device capable of taking the 3D stream. So mapping everything within line of sight from two perspectives, which is just a stereoscopic 360-degree camera that sees in both the infrared and visible light spectrum. So then we're going to be projecting out like a scanning grid of infrared around the room, and we're going to be like turning the light on and off in the gigahertz range. So like it's literally going on and off so fast you can't perceive it. But in the gaps where the light's off, we're going to be shooting out a beam of infrared in a pattern we decide, or maybe a grid of infrared. And we're going to take that scan, and then when the infrared stops and the light stops, we're going to take in all the light into the receiver. This is going to be like on the CPU cycle scale. So in the sub milliseconds, nanosecond scale, we're going to be, so it's going to be light beam, infrared grid, receive all of that many times a second. And by doing that, we build the map of each section of the room. Then we take the infrared map, we can build a 3D environment with that. The next stage from a software perspective will be enriching that map. So we will be able to infer from the physical limits of your environment the size of the room, right? So like we'll know, like if it's here at my light switch, at my light socket, we'll be able to measure the distance to the furthest object in this room, right? So learning the difference of a window and a wall is going to be an important point that the servers will need to learn. So this is all just going to need training, but we know we can do this. Like, it's not even a problem. I'm not concerned about this. So the idea would be we would use machine learning to fill in the gaps. So if I know this wall is 1 meter away and I know the floor is 1 meter away, it's reasonable to assert that they will intersect at a point that I can't see, right? And I know that. And if I can see this other wall here going along here, I know that there's going to be a dimension where all three things intersect. Now, it might be that that's not the case. It might be that I've got a set of stairs under there that's not visible to the camera. That's not going to make it into the 3D environment, right? But if there's something truly unique that's hidden from view, that's a separate problem that we'll overcome in the future. It might be that you can do a bespoke scan of a room to get every nook and cranny, and then moving forwards, we just track change. Again, I think those are problems that we'll overcome when the device exists and people feedback that it's a problem for them. Then it's a problem that we'll overcome. But at the moment, the real challenge is just, I can feasibly take the 3 dimensions of this room and map it just from real-time data. I can work out how far away the desk is, how deep the desk goes, the monitors, all this stuff we can resolve using an infrared object map. And then we can take the real-time texture data and overlay it on that in a 3D world. And Likewise, to facilitate just the idea of, oh, I want to look under the desk and see something that makes some logical sense rather than just a black hole, then I would say, yeah, the next step would be to enrich that 3D data with machine learning, like inference, basically, where we actually just draw the rest of the room in to the best of our knowledge. We extend the carpet texture out to the edge of the wall. We extend the paint texture down to the carpet. We do those logical things that aren't out of the realm of computational feasibility. Then there are some really interesting studies that have gone on with basically being able to map rooms by reflection, and by that I mean, and in fact, there was a study about a year ago, or maybe 2 years ago, that uncovered a way to listen to conversations from video, like as in, it's mental. I can't. It was like some CIA paper about record sound through video. That sounds like something that's going to be. Yeah, that's way too ambiguous. No, I can't find it off the top of my head. But yeah, the basic premise of it was this concept of being able to, from another room, using just one visual point, like all you need is access to. I just don't fully understand how it works, to be honest. But what I know is light reflects off shit. So if I shoot out one beam of light and then I record what comes back, there is interference data in that can indicate the color of the back of my monitor, for example. That like we're starting to push onto like using astronomical practices to infer visual data, which frankly is kind of out of my sphere of expertise. Like I know what's achievable now, and as this evolves and becomes a real tangible thing, then new problems will arrive, and then I'm sure that I'll be in the position to tackle them when I need to. But right now, just getting free real-time environments into the 3D world or the virtual world is a big deal in itself, and I think that's the scope of the idea for now. We've got a clip.